Back to you, Carol Lancaster. Let's talk briefly about Afghanistan, the drawdown there. That's a huge goal of President Obama during his second term, to bring U.S. combat troops back by the end of 2014. How do you see this conflict evolving? How will the United States look? What kind of a legacy do we leave? Is Pakistan cooperating at long last to some extent, to our benefit, to the benefit of the region? What do you think?
I fear that as we draw our troops down, the Taliban put more individuals into the conflict in Afghanistan. And I talk to people to get their views on what they think will happen. Some people think that Afghanistan may be, again, in line to experience Taliban rule. Others think that maybe not. Some think it will be very strong in certain provinces and not in others. I don't actually know, but I guess I wish I were more optimistic because the ability of the United States, or for that matter any power, to train an Afghan army that is, how shall we say, probably under-resourced and certainly under-trained in a country where there's so many domestic divisions and controversy about the probity of the government and even sometimes the legitimacy of the government, plus the interventions based in Pakistan that seem to go over the border and back and forth easily. It does make one a little bit concerned about the future of Afghanistan. So I think if Afghanistan begins to descend into chaos or shows a rise in the influence and presence of the Taliban as we withdraw or soon after we withdraw, I think people are going to look at it as a failure. Now, there are an awful lot of people in this country who who don't care, who just want to see the United States get out of Afghanistan, and it doesn't seem, at least from my distance, that we have solved the problem there. Pakistan is obviously problematical, and even for the Pakistanis. We've seen over the last several weeks the assassination of aid workers in Pakistan by Taliban elements, radical elements. That's a very brutal and I think disruptive thing. We also have seen the use by the United States of drones, which has obviously got to be very controversial in Pakistan itself. I don't think the Pakistan government controls, as it would perhaps like, as much of its territory as it would perhaps need to. And so that remains problematical, and it's hard to see where it goes apart from where it is.
Anthony Clark Arend, do you think that the United States is going to leave a situation more stable or potentially less stable? And then one has to wonder, why we were there or why we were there for so long.
The mistakes that the United States made in Afghanistan, in my view, were made in 2002. After the initial destruction, and I use that in quotes, of the Taliban, following our initial invasion in 2001, the United States and the international community failed to put the sufficient amount of troops there, failed to reinforce, failed to build the institutions that could have made for a possibly successful Afghanistan. The United States was quickly diverted to Iraq, lost the course in Afghanistan, and in my view has just not been able to get it back. I'm not very hopeful. I think there's tremendous amount of pressure for the United States to get out of Afghanistan. It is happening. I know General Allen is putting together some kind of proposal, which he's going to the president with, about some options. But I think at the end of the day, the United States is going to pull out. And frankly, absent the political will in the Afghani governments, absent the kind of commitment that the country needs to make, given the role of the Taliban and other groups, I just don't have a lot of optimism for the future of Afghanistan. I think the United States will pull out, and I really fear that it will be perceived as a failure for U.S. foreign policy, and I think probably rightfully so. And I wish I could be more hopeful.